We are going to learn this morning about how to spot fake news. Okay, you might think you already know how to spot fake news. However, our next instructor is going to open up your eyes, and you will see a lot more fake news than you've even seen in the past. We are so pleased to have Dr. Felecia Nace with us. This is her first camp. Her book is called Top-Down Confusion: Is Gray the New Pink? Let's give Dr. Felecia Nace a very warm Camp Constitution welcome. Come on up. Okay. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to come, Mr. Hal Shurtleff and Camp Constitution. So good to see everyone today. The coffee was great, for those of you who are coffee drinkers, and the breakfast was awesome. So we're talking about news and propaganda in the United States today. This is a huge topic. It's systemic, the propaganda that's happening in the U.S., and they're selling us lies as news. And this is especially harmful to our youth, because they're growing up steeped in lies. They will not be able to tell the truth from something that is dishonest and a right-out lie if we continue along the path that we're continuing. I had to follow Alex Newman, of all people, but he's excellent. Yeah. So at any rate, what is propaganda? I know a lot of young people hear propaganda, they hear fake news all the time. And so we're going to get into what propaganda is. Propaganda is when someone sets out to deliver you news that they know is misleading. So that's the purpose behind the news piece, is to mislead you, okay? And today it's done a lot in the political forum. It's meant to mislead you to a certain point of view. It's meant to lead you into a certain perspective, certain point of view, a political point of view. And a lot of this is going on the liberal side of things in this country. So I have a few questions for you. Number one, let's define fake news. What does it mean to you? And I'd like for some young people in the room to respond. What does fake news mean to you? What is it?
It's like a biased news source. But they don't really list their sources. They just, say whatever, facts they have, but they never give any evidence. And they're usually always disputed.
Very good definition. So a lot of fake news, you can recognize it because it will lack facts and details. Or, now this is where it gets gray, or they will list facts, seeming facts, that are not true, or only the facts that support their side of a story. Okay? Let's look at, for example, most of the channels have said this. If you look at most of the news stations, Trump is losing at every single liberal poll there is. But what poll? Are they taking a poll in the office? Are they taking a poll of 10 people or a million people? We don't know, because they never disclose that to you. Okay? So of course he's going to lose in a poll if they're only surveying all liberals, right? Okay. So we cannot believe everything that we see. Second question: what does fake news look like?
It looks, in general, inflammatory, something to provoke, not exactly to inform, but to provoke an idea.
Right. It provokes a certain idea. Yes?
It mainly provokes emotion rather than any reason.
Okay, which we skipped, very good. We skipped down to number 4, what does it feel like? There's a feeling attached to the propaganda that's being spread in America today. You're made to feel more depressed these days. You're made to feel like our country is collapsing all around us. If you did not live in America and you read our news and you lived, let's say, in Asia or Europe, you would think that our country was falling apart and we were in the streets fighting each other every day. That's not so. But if you look at our news, this is a picture that it paints for us. Dismal. Okay? So it has a feeling attached to it. Let's look at sound. What does it sound like? Sounds like Rachel Maddow, loud. Yeah, sounds angry, yes.
It sounds chaotic.
It sounds chaotic. Yes.
Repetitive. Like they use every station has the same exact wording.
Yep, exactly. And that repetitiveness, there's a purpose behind that. Because if you say something 2,000 times, it has to be true. Yes. I'm sorry, yeah. And then you.
They always seem to, they seem to be kind of like threatened almost. Like there's like a burning building next to them, and they're scared.
And that's that feeling, that's that tone that you get. And this young man,
I'm guessing they use a lot of exaggeration.
lots and lots of exaggeration. And for young people, I really, I feel for you because you have to navigate through all this material to try to figure out what's real and what isn't. But we're going to clarify some of that for you today. So how powerful is our news? How powerful is the news?
Incredibly high.
How so?
Well, the average American gets all their information from our news, our news stations and newspapers. So fake news is incredibly effective at swaying general opinion in America.
Incredibly effective, that's right. So let's delve in. Let's dive in here. So historical importance of the news, fake news is nothing new. So if you think back to the Revolutionary War in the 1700s, going back to 1767, okay, the war started in 1775. So there was an 8-year period that another war had to wage, because before you have a physical hand-to-hand combat, there's a mental war that has to take place because you have to get people to either side, take the side of war, or be against war. So that mental war took place where? Took place in newspapers at that time. Who had control of the newspapers? Was it the colonists, who had very little money and who were struggling to survive, or Britain? It was Britain. Okay, so you can imagine the kind of propaganda they were putting out to the people because they didn't want war. They were putting out propaganda in the newspaper saying things like, well, if you go to war, surely the colonies will lose, okay, because we have more power on our side. We have more weapons, okay? So this was the news that they were feeding the colonists for years and years because they felt that a war was coming. And just before the war, what did the colonists do? They didn't have technology, as Mr. Newman said earlier. Didn't have all the things that we have at our disposal. What did they do, these simple farmers? They created their own news sources. By the end of the war, there were over 400 different types of pamphlets, just mere pamphlets that they made in their homes, in small groups. Okay, very similar to what we're doing today. How are we pushing back against mainstream media? We are pushing back. We're trying to fight. How are we doing it?
Someone like for in our case, the president who's willing to, shout out all these things that, and kind of condemn them for saying all these things that aren't true, but of course, those guys in flashback too.
We have some people who are willing to speak out on our behalf, like our president. But what else are we doing? How are we fighting back? We're not necessarily making pamphlets, which we may end up going that route, but what else are we doing, young lady?
We're having our own
We're having our own,
true news stations.
we have our own news stations. We have YouTubers. We have people going Facebook Live, trying to get the truth out. How effective is it? I'm going to go on this side. Yes.
I think it's pretty effective because I know for most people in Gen Z, they get their news from social media.
A lot of,
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter.
yep, a lot of people are getting their news from social media. But what is social media doing? See, we are wrapped up in technology in a very dangerous way because although it is an alternative for us, it also allows us less privacy than they had back during the revolutionary days when they were creating their pamphlets. No one saw that information coming. Every keystroke is recorded by someone today, and that's the danger. And we may need to, and I know no one in this room wants to hear this, but there is going to come a time when we're going to have to let technology go, because it is not a help. If you make a list of the pros and cons, it's a hindrance. Okay? It's being sold as, this avant-garde, you have to have it, technology that's going to make your life easier. But what it has done, it has let every single person in the world have access to your children. That's number one. It has let, you've lost your privacy. Everywhere you go, every move you make, someone knows it. So in order to regain our privacy, in order to regain control of our children, we may have to let technology go. And that's hard for many of us. But, going back to what Alex said, look at what our foreparents gave up. Okay, you talk about hardships. If that's all they had to do was let go of technology, they would have done it. But we have so many people today who are dependent on it, and it's become like a drug. So something to think about. So when you create alternative means of reporting news, which I would love to see more young people get involved in, what is an important thing to remember when you do your own reporting? If we want to change the climate of reporting right now.
Actually list sources.
Thank you. We have to list sources. We can't fight propaganda with propaganda, okay? We have to walk the walk and be the example.
Don't act like them. And what I mean by that is don't have the attitude where you need to change your mind, don't you act rough, but just be calm and just this isn't okay, or you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
No, I do understand. You guys understand that, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like the other team. If you want to change the mindsets in this country, if we want to change the value system in this country back to what it used to be, we have to be pure in our approach, okay? And there's strength in being pure. Rachel Maddow, I can't take her. I mean, we can't be that, but we do need to present facts moving forward. Okay. Moving right along. So defining a news, and this is what news is supposed to be. It's just supposed to be a simple report of recent events, previously unknown information that's passed along to you, but it's become so much more than that. What do we get? We get people's comments all the time. That's not news. That's called opinion. Okay? And then B really struck me, 2B. It's supposed to be matter that is newsworthy. So this is very important because who decides what's newsworthy for you these days? And that's where things get sticky, because we have just a very small group of very wealthy corporations that create the news. If you click on all the news channels, all the top stories are the same? Like, how can that even be possible? Right? You have to think about that. So, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, now this report was published on June 25th, 2020, I'm going to skip down to the last line. It says, watching TV was the leisure activity that occupied the most time, 2.8 hours per day. And this is for people 15 years and older. Now, that's almost 3 hours a day. So 3 times 7 gives you what? 21 hours. In 21 hours a week, you could have a very successful business if you dedicated 21 hours a week to creating something of your own, right? Because what does media do? Can you engage with media? No. It's one way. It goes in. And it constantly streams in. It's streaming one way. There's no engagement with it. There's no interaction. And that's where brainwashing comes in. I mean, there's no other way to say it. We need to get away from using the euphemisms and start calling things what they are. Lies are lies, and brainwashing is brainwashing. So think about how you spend your time. We have become such a visual society today, and these are the images that we see a lot. Look at this. I can't breathe. Say his name, George Floyd. Yes, George Floyd was murdered by a police officer. It was a bad thing. I think 99.9% of people saw it, disliked it, hated it. But do we need to go to this extreme? Of writing on our flag? But these are the images that media wants to project, that we're just in total chaos. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We have politicians in Washington who will kneel to our flag. George Floyd's death was an isolated incident. Okay? In every single job, you're going to have someone who is at the top of their game. Most people will fall in the middle, will do their job, do it okay, and go home. And then you have that bottom portion of people who are just horrible at their jobs. The person that killed George Floyd was horrible at his job. Does it rise to this level? No. But this is what the media, this is the narrative that they want to present to us. We have football players, we have basketball players, we have actors and actresses who are all of a sudden involved in politics. Kneeling to the flag, disgracing the flag. This has become the scene that we see all across the media in America. This is what they don't want you to see. Because when you see photos like this, it gives you happy feelings. It gives you feelings of hope. Okay? Feelings that you're in the greatest country in the world. This is what they don't want you to see. This is what they don't want you to see. So, the Bible says guard your heart.
Yes.
Guard your minds. Guard your minds, because the Bible also says, and Reverend Kraft, you have to help me with this one, don't be deceived. Right? I'm not sure where I can find that, but I know.
Do not deceive. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, that's what he's going to reap. Galatians chapter 5.
Do not be deceived. And that's where we are in our society today. It's a lot of deception. So this is one of our monuments. Robert E. Lee. This is a monument in Virginia. Stands there today. I really wish I could have gotten this photo enlarged a little more. But as you can see, there's graffiti. Graffiti all in here.
Full screen?
Full screen.
I am not tech savvy.
Just a minute.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. So this is what we see today, disgracing monuments. What is this really about? What are we told about these monuments? What is the lie that's being sold? Why these monuments need to come down? Why we need to disgrace them? They're racist, right? Now, okay, what's your name? Zach. Zach, let me give you a tip, okay? If you want to become invisible, become a statue. No one pays attention to statues. I mean, this is not the biggest problem in America. How many people actually pay attention to a statue unless you're a young child and you're on a field trip? Okay? Ridiculous. So, this one I find very interesting. I grew up in a place called Newark, New Jersey, better known as Brick City. It is my home. I spent so much time, this is downtown Newark, I spent so much time on this street, Park Street. Worked downtown when I was a teenager. This is where you go if you want to shop, downtown Newark. Christopher Columbus used to stand here. I never noticed him in all my years of living in Newark. Walked past the statue a million times, never noticed him. However, now, this is the article titled, Another Christopher Columbus Statue Removed from New Jersey City Park. Okay? So this is the big push now. Another story, second Christopher Columbus statue taken down in Newark. This was in broad daylight, and this was posted June 27th. tell me, do you see anyone in this photo, except for these two guys who look like they're working? They're pulling the statue down, that's what's happening. There's just Christopher Columbus.
amazing that rig has American flags on it.
Yeah.
If this is such, this is, you know, such an offense to people, wouldn't you think that the citizens would be there with signs and clapping and applauding that the statue's coming down? There's no one there. Because this was the governor and the mayor who decided this racist statue has to come down. Question?
I just have a comment. To back that statement up, even the leader of the 54th in the Civil War, his grave was also graffiti. And you know, the 54th was made up of black soldiers, and he was a white general, and he you know, left them all serve, and they all died, you know, for their country. It's very sad to see Black Lives Matter even take that down.
Because they're not knowledgeable.
I missed what you were saying.
I'm sorry?
I missed what you were saying, I couldn't hear it.
No, he was just saying that there are statues depicting Black Americans who served in wars that are now being disgraced as well by Black Lives Matter, because they're not doing their homework, and this is not driven by we the people. The removal of statues is driven by government. You know, they want to erase history, because in order to build a communist country
Yes.
in a free country, a country that's built on freedom of speech, you have to get rid of everything that came before. They can't coexist,
Right.
okay? Just like the truth can't coexist with a lie, and that's what's happening. You don't see we the people out here applauding this statue being taken down. These people are at work. They have other things to do. There are bigger problems in Newark that I'm about to show you than the statues, okay? So, here is a video. I want to just see if I can load that up.
You want to play the video?
Yes, I would like to.
Go do it. We're
Thank
in tech
you.
guy, man. The link is get out of the mode. Get out of the screen mode.
So in the meantime, you know, there are lots of problems in Newark. The video you're about to see has to do with lead in the water. Does anyone know what lead does to the brain of a young child? Lead is like injecting poison into the brain of a young child. They will come out with all types of mental,
Copy the thing when you use the browser.
of mental deficits. So you don't want to inject or expose a child to lead of any sort. So Newark, New Jersey, the town I grew up in, has lead in the water. This is a major project of cleaning up all the lead pipes.
Just change the speakers. She's from Alex. Alex.
That's awesome, thank you. I think you should play. Yeah, no?
Play sound. Is it the projector? It's gonna come through the projector, but we need Alex and then here. Because he knows how to
Awesome.
do this.
Thank you so much. Okay.
You could take the speaker and put it
A little over 18,000 lead service lines for the 30-month test. When they first started building
Can you
water
hear?
and sewer infrastructures, for sewer they were using wood or clay pipe. And later on they started using lead service lines. They didn't have these heavy equipment machinery, so we dug holes with picks and shovels. Lead is very flexible. It's very bendable.
Now, he's from the mayor's office, and he's explaining projects that are going on.
So this is a lead service line. Durable, heavy, and they use lead, like I said, when they were digging trenches, right? Lead's very flexible, right? In the late 30s, mid 40s, you know, lead started being scarce. They were having it in World War I, World War II. They started using that for bullets. They started using copper. Copper became a new thing to use, right? And the machinery was there for us to use copper. And we continue to use copper. In the late 60s, early 70s, they started looking at PVC, the little plastic pipe. They're using it more now. But older cities like New York City, Chicago, Detroit, most of the older cities on the East Coast, they use lead and they transitioned over to copper. Technology has improved. As technology improves, science has improved. So things that we thought were good for us 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, we're finding out they're not. In 1953, Newark banned the use of lead. Right? If you built a new home, you had to use copper. If you made a repair on an old lead service that was leaking, you had to replace it with copper. In 1986, the federal government banned the use of lead and lead solder, health effects of lead, to replace all the lead services in the entire United States. Today, that price is between $60 to $80 billion. So in 1991, they came up with corrosion control, ways that you can prevent lead from leaching into water, right? You know, raising the pH, putting in orthophosphate or sodium silicate that would create a prophylactic liner throughout the pipe that would prevent lead from leaching.
Thank you. Okay. So lead is definitely a problem in Newark, and they have a few other problems as well. Let's take a look at them. So their reading and math test scores, back in 2017, I think I just closed this, thank you. Back in 2017, those were the previous test scores in Newark, New Jersey for reading alone. And the kids in Newark were reading at this rate. Only 36% of them were able to pass the reading test at the end of the year. Only 36%. Okay? Yet they're taking down statues. Now, the article that you have says that the last test score in 2018, they fell below the previous year of a 36% pass rate. Yet we're taking down statues, right? The crime rate in the city, let's take a look at that. If I can get back to my screen. Oh, great. So murder capitals of America. In 2018, Newark was on that top 20 list of murder capitals in America. What is considered a murder capital in America? It says this list was prepared by Neighborhood Scout, a web-based platform from Location, Inc., and includes 30 cities in America with the highest number of murders per 1,000 residents. Yet statues are their largest problem. So, after having these low test scores, after writing about it, after all the issues that's going on in the school districts, what's wrong with this title? What's wrong with this news article? Okay?
It doesn't address the actual problem.
It does not address the problem. What is this news article addressing? Diversity. Surely that's what the kids in Newark need more of, is diversity training. So after educators weigh in, Newark schools are set to get new textbooks that prioritize diversity. Not mathematics, not reading, not writing, diversity. What's happening in our inner cities? What's happening in our inner cities is that all of our federal tax dollars, and of which if you're working you pay a lot of, they feed into the poor school districts. They're never going to get better unless we demand that they get better. We can no longer live in silos because they're siphoning all of the money into these school districts. If you pull up this article on your phone, your smartphone, what you'll find is they spent $10 million, $10 million to prioritize what? Diversity, something the kids don't need. They're always having us look left when we should be looking right. Okay? So before you believe a headline, this is the thing that I caution, especially the youth. Make sure that you do your homework. Make sure that you do your investigation of that city, of that school district. Because clearly the kids of Newark don't need to prioritize diversity. That's one of the last things that they need. Clearly the citizens of Newark are not applauding the taking down of statues. So what to look for when reading or listening to the news? Of course, your supporting details like statistics, important facts, detailed descriptions, easily accessible information. You shouldn't have to go searching for it. It should be there. Neutrality and objective point of view, that means that there should be two sides of the story. Even three, if necessary, in order for a piece to be really objective. Be an active reader. That means when you have and when you're watching the news as well. If you have a news program on, that information is coming one way. It's streaming into your brain. So you need to put on your thinking cap. You need to posture. And as that news is being fed into you, you need to steadily be thinking critically about what you're viewing. Same thing with reading. Get your backup. When you read an article, get your backup. Start using your critical thinking skills. Okay? Don't just receive. You have to actively engage with what you're reading and what you're watching on TV. It is that critical. So there are 9 lucky people in this room that have this article. Okay? I'd like for you to stand, please. I gave you an article. Okay. So these individuals are going to create small groups and they are going to read this article to you and then we're going to come back together. So can you please form small groups of I'm thinking about 9 or 10 people. Okay, and these will be your readers. You can use the outside. I think 3 groups could easily fit outside. And then in 10 minutes, we're going to come back in and close out with your comments. I want you to think about statistics, important facts, detailed descriptions. Is the information in the article easily accessible? And is there an objective point of view there? Be an active reader. 10 minutes. Please don't be shy. I want everyone to group off. Just, if you see a person standing and they have the article, okay, I think you guys can be a group. Right. What is the attention span like these days? And see, writers and newspapers understand that. In order to get to the score, you had to click on something, you had to know what county you were in, or what county you wanted. Oh, it's a whole series of things that you needed to do in order to get just the simple test scores. But they were that bad, they didn't want to print them. Okay? But they proudly printed the fact that they're going to spend $10 million for diversity books, to focus on diversity. Very interesting. So back in the 90s when I was teaching, taught wonderful 4th graders. It was a great time to be in the classroom because we could actually have conversations with parents. That doesn't happen anymore. Teachers are told a script. They're given a script to tell you that everything that is introduced that comes down from the federal government, ergo, my book, Top Down Confusion, everything that filters down from the federal government is great and it's wonderful. Because if they don't go along with the agenda, their jobs are on the line. Okay, so you cannot get the truth from your school's teachers anymore. I had conversations and debates with parents when I taught in Montclair, New Jersey, about the curriculum, that some of it I didn't like. You cannot dare say that as an educator today. You have to go along with the plan. So we're not moving toward communism. We're there.
That's right.
Okay? When your teachers can't have your teachers whom you pay the salary, you pay those salaries. You can't have a natural conversation with them about pretty much anything.
That's right.
We are at that place. So how did we get there? We allowed ourselves to get there. Okay, we the people have to take back control. How do we do that? Simple. We're going to have to give up some comforts. You have to think about it and think about it hard. And, if you're a parent, start having your children write their aunts, grandmoms, granddads letters, old-fashioned letters. Retain your privacy. Okay, get them used to it, because if they don't get used to it, what we're giving them is the equivalent of an addiction. Okay, so something to think about. It's uncomfortable, and I'm not telling you something I didn't do myself. I haven't had television, no cable, zero, in 6 years. I don't miss it. I still get a steady diet of it because I can't go to a restaurant without a television set being on. I can't go to the gym without TV. It's like if you don't have salt in your house, you're going to get it. If you go to a wedding, you're going to get salt in your diet. So this is where we are. We have to make that hard choice. What are we willing to give up to retain, to take back this country, and to take back what is rightfully ours? And that's your privacy and your ability to raise your kids the way you want to raise them, not the way the world wants to raise them. Okay. Any questions before I close out? Yes.
Well, I know another way to combat like fake media is if you hear a media story, why don't you just go investigate yourself?
Absolutely.
Like, go get the truth yourself. Like if the media is saying, like for instance, like we live in Queens, New York, Elmhurst, by the epicenter of coronavirus, and all we kept hearing on the news was, oh, the hospitals are so packed and the lines out the door, the media is showing big lines and all these people in the tents, and we live here. So my husband and I were like, let's go see this, because everybody's texting us, oh, we're so scared for you, and all that's going on in Elmhurst and all this other stuff. So we decided, we're going to go ourselves.
And investigate.
So we went and we videotaped all these different hospitals, just drive around and say, no lines, nobody in the tents. The tents are falling down because of, the wind comes and makes them fall down.
Right.
And nobody's in the waiting rooms. And we put that up on YouTube, and everybody's watching it like not a little but just that one particular thing. You have to go see it yourself.
You have to go see it yourself.
You investigate it yourself.
Yeah. And there's so many different sources out there that project incorrect information. Even with that, you have to be careful. So it's not all information is online. Some of us in this room remember going to the library and doing our own reports just by hand. Okay, so, we need to resort back to those types of tools and, just doing the things the basic way.
Retain our books.
And retain our books. Yeah.
Campers, we want to give Dr. Nace for this fantastic presentation a great a show of appreciation.
Thank you.